Welcome to Living a Full Life podcast. Join us as we explore health topics that encourage raising healthy children, living a healthy life, and living the best life possible. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Living a Full Life podcast. I am Dr. Enrico Dolcecore, and this week we'll be going through the silent killer, high blood pressure. We're going to be reviewing a whole bunch of things of the myths, the facts between high blood pressure, what you can do to prevent even getting high blood pressure through your life and not ending up a genetic liability, as we all think that these things lie through there. But genetics plays a big role in this one, especially with a lot of cardiovascular issues. So let's go through what high blood pressure really is. How does it even happen? What's the function between high blood pressure? And really, there's a combination of things that happen. It's known as a silent killer because typically there's no symptoms at the beginning once this starts to escalate and blood pressure starts to elevate. So people really don't know that they have high blood pressure. It's until they do a wellness check or something where they're getting their blood pressure taken and it's high, and then they come back in 3 months and they check again and it's high again. And then the doctor starts to ask a few more questions. And that's how it typically happens. If you don't get checked, then it can be the silent killer because as our blood pressure goes up, we increase the risks of aneurysm, stroke, and TIAs. So it's called a silent killer because of the lack of symptoms. However, some people with high blood pressure may experience things like headaches. This could be a first sign of high blood pressure, especially headaches that are behind the eyes, almost like sinus headaches. It can create shortness of breath. It can create nosebleeds. Unexplained nosebleeds all of a sudden later in life can be an increase in arterial pressure, causing them to burst in the sinuses, causing nosebleeds. That can be a possible symptom as well. Chest pain. I mean, now we're getting into more severe cardiovascular symptoms where we get chest pain, and then dizziness and blurred vision usually go hand in hand when our blood pressure escalates too high. This could be an acute high blood pressure or chronic high blood pressure. But either way, those are the most common symptoms related to high blood pressure. Now, symptoms are what you can relate to your doctor. That's always a symptom, or something that you can see change within your physiology that you can explain to your doctor. But some symptoms of high blood pressure can be heart attack and death as well. And unfortunately, those patients don't have a chance to explain anything to anyone because that can also be a side effect of high blood pressure. So these symptoms aren't specific and usually don't occur until blood pressures reach over a severe or life-threatening range. So how does blood pressure develop? How does this happen? We typically don't see high blood pressure in adolescents, in youth, in children. So typically it's a lifestyle type symptom that develops over time, and it's a combination of genetic, lifestyle, and environmental factors. As people age, several changes in the body contribute to the risk of developing hypertension. So arterial stiffening is one thing. You may have heard this as plaquing. Over time, as we get older, arteries naturally lose their elasticity as we age, making it harder for blood to flow as smoothly and increasing blood pressure. That's one of the most common. Plaque buildup itself inside the arterial walls over time from cholesterol and other substances can build up, causing them to narrow and harden. This is also known as atherosclerosis. Kidney function decline as we age plays a huge role because of renal pressure as well. The kidneys help regulate blood pressure by controlling the balance of salt and water in the body. So aging can impair kidney function, affecting this balance and raising blood pressure. Weight gain over time, of course, can make changes to our metabolism, which tends to slow down with age, which can lead to weight gain. Excess weight increases the workload of the heart and the arteries. And a sedentary lifestyle, just not exercising the cardiovascular system, can just leading to weight gain and other reduced cardiovascular health, can just create a fatigue in the cardiovascular system and the heart just not getting the exercise it needs to sufficiently pump blood as we age each decade through life. So that's how these things happen. This is the literature, right? Atherosclerosis, you've heard of this. Plaquing, you've heard of this. Arterial stiffening, maybe something new that you've heard. But then you look at people like my dad who are 80 and never have had high blood pressure. And you kind of listen and think about that. Is that a genetic reason? Is that a lifestyle reason? Is there multiple things that play a role in that? But really, prevention is the name of the game when it comes to almost everything. So preventing high blood pressure involves a combination of lifestyle modifications and regular monitoring. That's it. You just got to keep an eye on it and know what your range is. So the younger you take your blood pressure, like as in your teens and 20s, the better of an idea you have of where your normal is. So I always thought 120/80 was the normal, but it can range across many people in different places and ethnicities. So blood pressure is really unique to you. So having an early indication of what your normal blood pressure is through your early life will give you a platform to kind of aim for the rest of your life, because your blood pressure really shouldn't change over time. So that is probably the best rule. I've taken blood pressures in the United States, in Canada, in Africa, and they're very different in different places depending on their diet, depending on their fat consumption, their oil consumption, their salt consumption. And people live regular lives. I was taking blood pressures in Madagascar. It's probably almost 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And the average blood pressure, I swear, was 180/110, something crazy like that. And these people were in their 80s and still going back to the farms and working. And they were asking about blood. They were concerned about their blood pressure. And of course, we were chiropractors and we're trying to teach them natural lifestyle. And they were also looking for medications. But they were in their 80s living with that type of a high blood pressure because of their diet, because of a high palm oil and salt consumption in their diet. But they were strong and working in the fields, and stroke and aneurysms weren't the major cause of death in that area. So it was interesting to see that. And it kind of opened my eyes saying, okay, 120/80 must be this overall average of numbers taken around the world. And that's exactly what it is. It's just millions of data points. And then we figured out that 120/80 is the average. But that doesn't mean it's normal for everyone. So you need to be constantly monitoring yours throughout the year. I would do it a few times a year just to and plot it down and make sure that you know where yours is. So preventing is going to come through three major things. Healthy diet. A healthy diet. And what is a healthy diet? If you've listened to any of our previous podcasts, you should know by now what a healthy diet is. And I highly encourage you to go back to one of our awesome podcasts with world-renowned cardiologist, Dr. Jack Wolfson. He did a great job quickly going through how the heart really works and how nutrition really works throughout the body, and what we should be really focusing on. And I'll remind you of how that all works. It's really following a balanced diet of fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy products. That's really the key to this, by revolving your diet around good, healthy protein. That is what your body needs. That's what the heart is, one of the largest muscles in the body. It's one of the strongest muscles in the body. It needs a healthy diet of healthy proteins and all the good vitamins and nutrients that come from fruits and vegetables as well. So it's a redundant. We're beating the same drum here, folks. It's all about a healthy diet, and people who around the world follow a healthy diet 80% of the time live longer, have less morbidity and mortality rates, and higher mortality or lower mortality rates because of a healthier diet. So the whole salt myth I like to talk about, limiting salt to under, some studies show 2,000 milligrams a day, 2,500 milligrams a day. Reducing it to under that, or under 1,500 milligrams per day, is ideal for blood pressure. There's some conflicting evidence in that as well, because I just showed you a whole bunch of things of Africa, how they eat a high sodium diet, and they do have higher blood pressure, but their rates of heart attack, aneurysm, and stroke are not any higher than they are in North America. So interesting about salt. Our salt consumption is high in the American diet because of processed foods. So beware of where you're getting your salt from. Salt should be coming from the food that you cook. Meats don't contain much salt in them naturally. Vegetables contain very little, and fruits contain almost nothing as far as salt. So really, your salt should be added to your diet using really good sources. And the best sources I recommend to a lot of patients is Celtic salt and Himalayan pink salt as well. So those are the two best sources. Using ionized salt from the sea, these things are highly processed And it's usually you end up consuming more salt using those table salts than you do the natural salts from the Himalayas or Celtic. So those are two great ones as well. Avoid excessive consumption of saturated and trans fats. This is the whole idea of the plaquing that we were talking about earlier. We know that saturated and trans fats can increase cholesterol, which the bad cholesterols in the body, which can increase plaque over time. Again, some conflictions in there as well. Everything's not very 100% straight on that as well, because saturated fats are very good for you. It's the trans fats we have to kind of watch out from. And again, trans fats come from processed foods, deep fried processed foods in the fast food industry. Otherwise, at home, if you're cooking your own meals, very hard to get a high concentration of trans fats because you're going to be using normal cooking oils like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. You're going to use the rich omega-3 fats to cook with. And really, how much do you really need to cook with? You're not going to be deep frying your food at home. So using a tablespoon to cook is more than enough than what you need for your food when it comes to that. And over a lifetime, you'll never consume so much to create arterial sclerosis or plaquing of your cardiovascular system. So interesting there. So diet is it. We could end the podcast right there. And I think that would be huge for cardiovascular health, but there is more. Remember, we said the heart is the strongest muscle in the body. So regular exercise plays a huge role in this. So if your goal is to live a healthy life and not run triathlons and not lift heavy weights and be a bodybuilder or anything aside in the fitness industry, and all it is just to live a healthy life, then the exercise that is from exercise physiology recommended is to engage in at least 150 minutes of moderately intense aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorously intense aerobic activity each week. So it's 150 of moderate. So that's going for a nice walk, going for a light jog, maybe 30 minutes 5 times a week, whatever, maybe 50 minutes 3 times a week, doing water aerobics, doing a step class, doing a Zumba class, some dance, whatever it may be. You want to add that up to about 150 minutes. If you're doing something like a run, if you're a runner, 75 minutes of vigorous intensity activity each week works great. So a 75-minute run or 2 45-minute runs, that's great. That's what you need per week. And that's the minimum. That's the minimum of what we need to keep moving. And that's been shown to keep the heart healthy. Now, remember, there's limits to it. Being sedentary and doing nothing is the lower limit of bad. And doing way too much can put stress on the heart as well. We've seen this with ultra fit people who run ultra marathons, triathlons over long periods of time have heart attacks. Why is that? From fatiguing the heart as well. So there's both ends of the spectrum when it comes to exercise. Keep it within the moderate range, safe and sound. Live a long, healthy life with your heart. That's great. Maintaining a healthy weight is shown across all the literature to be really important. There is no conflicting evidence on this. Aim for a body mass index. The BMI is the medical range that we use. Now, if you have more lean muscle mass, then you have to accommodate for this. So using a smart BMI is probably a better tool than the traditional BMI, because BMI is just using your circumference versus your height. Not the best way to determine body mass index. So using a smart BMI is better. From the medical research, 18.5 to 25 seems to be that normal. The men closer to 20, the women closer to 25 for a BMI in a healthy range. So if you're getting life insurance or you're going to your medical doctor every year, that's what they're going to look at. And they're going to give you a high 5 if you're in that range and give you a lower life insurance rate if you're in that range compared to others. But however, if you're someone like me who can put on dense lean muscle and only 5'9", you may be pushing up above the 25, but still in a healthy range, because if you use the smart BMI tracker, it will show you a better estimate incorporating lean muscle mass in there as well. So that's a great one too. So losing even a small amount of excess weight can play a significant role on your cardiovascular health and directly proportionally decrease your blood pressure. It's pretty cool. And that's where all the research is very conclusive, is being lighter and not heavier plays a better role on our blood pressure and our heart for sure. Now, some other things to just think about is alcohol and tobacco use. I think in North America, we're doing such a great job in reducing tobacco use over time. Even in my lifetime as a kid in the 80s till now, there's been a huge dramatic decrease in tobacco use, cigarette use. Vaping is a different story. That's come back and that's probably kept it about the same as maybe the 90s. But smoking itself has gone down, which is great. That's great to see. If you drink alcohol, do so in moderation. Now, moderation medically shows up to 1 drink per day for women and up to 2 drinks per day for men. But then you look at, addictive personalities and alcoholism, and that can overlap into alcoholism as well, drinking every day. So depending where you're reading your research, if we keep using the American Medical Association, we're going to get a lot of conflicting evidence. So we got to go through it. And drinking every day an alcoholic beverage is too much. It is too much on the heart. Some cool research from patients that were alcoholics and people that have done research on autopsies afterwards showed that chronic alcoholics had 0 atherosclerosis, 0 plaquing. This is where the gray area of saying, oh, maybe alcohol has a positive role on cardiovascular health by decreasing cholesterol or plaque. There is some truth to that. And that's where the Europeans love to hang on to a glass of wine a day or a couple glasses of wine a week is good for you. And that research is actually overwhelmingly supportive in the blue zones around the world, in Sardinia, in Greece, in Japan. It all shows that a little bit of alcohol consumption does play a good role, but not the American Medical Association's guideline of 1 drink per day. That can be excessive. If you think about it, 300 drinks a year, it can add up. So alcohol actually stresses the liver, which also can increase blood pressure. So that is same thing with smoking and tobacco use. It can actually damage the blood vessels themselves, which then makes them atherosclerotic and stiff, which can increase blood pressure as the heart has to work harder to pump blood through the stiffening arterial system. So that's how smoking works as well. Then number 5 and 6 are not any less important than anything else we've talked about. Managing stress. We've seen people immediately before getting their blood pressure taken do something or think of something and their blood pressure's through the roof. And you can give them 15 minutes to cool down, come back, and their blood pressure's way down. So we know that thoughts can affect our hormone system and how we respond. Remember, we can on a dime produce certain hormones like cortisol and any significant hormone, like immediately from being excited or worried, that can immediately change our blood pressure and our cardiovascular output. And it's a parasympathetic response to that. So practicing stress reducing techniques, anything out there, going for a walk with the dog, being still, getting some quiet time, reading a book, watching a comedy, doing some yoga, deep breathing exercises, mindfulness, whatever it may be, plays a long game role in our health over time. Ensure adequate sleep and maintain a healthy work-life balance. I still don't know what that means with healthy work-life balance. Good luck with that. You got to work and you got to have some fun. It's never going to be 40 hours of work and 40 hours of fun. But take it as you will. Just make sure if you play hard or if you work hard, you play hard sometimes. And that's how I live it. But ensure adequate sleep. Now, what's adequate sleep? We've done about 3 or 4 podcasts on sleep. So go back and just type in sleep in the search menu and you'll see our podcasts, 7 to 9 hours a night for adults. That is our goal, should be your goal in sleeping, because we know during the sleep rhythm is where the body heals. Everything heals. Neurological tissue, muscle tissue especially, even arterial and venal tissue, that heals during sleep as well. And just regular monitoring. This is where I do agree with the American Medical Association. Your annual physical plays a big role in keeping an eye on these things, keeping an eye on your blood pressure, keeping an eye on your blood enzymes, keeping your CBC, your red blood cell counts, your cholesterol, your thyroid. I mean, these are important markers to keep an eye on. And doing that annually between 20 and 50 is really important. Over the age of 50, I would be going in twice a year just to keep an extra eye on all those markers. So check your blood pressure regularly, either at home with a reliable monitor or through regular visits with your healthcare provider, or keep track of your blood pressure readings and discuss them with your doctor to adjust them. All the new cool apps on your phones and your watches can actually keep track of this stuff for you. Use a reliable monitor and input that data into some cool app that you use. A lot of them are free. They play a huge role in data preservation. And even Dr. Wolfson, Dr. Jack, when I was talking to him, he said it's all about keeping track of the data of your health and your life. That's how you know if you're staying within a parameter of health or if you're going outside the parameter into illness. And I love that. That was such a great idea of doing that. So we can do that through blood pressure. We can do that through blood work. We can do that through our annual checks. It's just a matter of keeping track of it and knowing what your normals are before you freak out. Because if you start freaking out, what happens? Your blood pressure goes up. Not a good result there. Think about that. Stay well, stay healthy. Have a great week.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Living a Full Life podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.